My name is Max. Really excited to speak with everyone today. Um, my dad used to teach at UCLA. He retired, but he's always sending me emails from kelp culture. Always forwarding them, and I was like, Dad, I get the emails now, but he still forwards them. It's like the technology gap. So segueing that, if there's any technological hurdles today, like father, like son. But anyway, excited to actually be involved with kelp culture. And yeah, so my company is called Salty Gold Uni. And this whole journey started we are 4 years later. But it's really neat to see how this sort of thing, can organically unfold like in a academic setting and um, make it in the real world. So yeah, a little background about me before just getting into the mix here. I used to work as a chef in Los Angeles and across the US. And that's where I first encountered sea urchin. Went on to do this graduate degree, was always interested in sustainability, and those two things merged. I am going to play a little video just to give a little more photos and everything for that. Again, everyone can see the screen okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
My name is Max Diamonds. For the last year and a half, I've been doing a culinary deep dive on sea urchin. I'm talking some mad scientist food product development, and I'm super excited to share with you today what I've learned about the purple sea urchin, which is also referred to as uni. I have about a deck.
Do we have audio issues here?
We have audio, we don't have video. So I think if you is that true for everyone else?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I think if you reshare your screen,
Yep.
where you make sure that is the video in the browser?
Um, it is just on my compute. So yes, it's in the browser currently.
It sounded great.
How about,
That looks good.
okay, cool. We had
Two.
to have at least one technological hurdle here. All right, I'm gonna try this one more time. Thank you for bearing with me.
My name is Max Diamonds. For the last year and a half, I've been doing a culinary deep dive on sea urchin. I'm talking some mad scientist food product development, and I'm super excited to share with you today what I've learned about the purple sea urchin, which is also referred to as uni. I have about a decade of professional culinary experience. I've worked in Michelin star restaurants, did some corporate catering at Airbnb's headquarters, and even developed some liquid nitrogen ice cream for a Fortune 500 company. I also have a master's degree in environmental management and science and a background in food systems research. I'm super stoked to share these findings on sea urchin with you and why exactly I'm so obsessed with it.
Kelp forests are disappearing. Purple sea urchins are taking over. There's nothing you can do, right? Wrong. There's a lot of things you can do. Specifically, there's a lot of things you can eat.
Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to add this urchin compound butter that I've developed. Umami bomb of flavor that is just going to transform this dish. And when you have a live urchin, it's super expensive to source because it's live, it's spiky, it's a total pain to process, clean, all that. Unlike a live urchin, can just be easily used right out the box. voila, this is sea urchin risotto, little umeboshi, some mushrooms, and then we finished with an urchin botarga on top of the sea urchin compound butter to bring it all together.
Fun. So I think that works. Otherwise, we've all been staring at a screen for 3 minutes, and I apologize for that. Um, just a little kind of like teaser for how I guess the tightrope act of presenting this business. Today's exciting, obviously, because everyone's really interested in kelp. And that's the reason that I came up with this and am still doing it. More often than not, however, I am presenting to a variety of stakeholders that could be retail grocery stores or chefs, or, point is people that may or may not have a fondness or awareness of the ocean and the environmental impact. So it's always something where I'm trying to tie in and figure out what the themes are. So again, today really excited to really delve into the sustainability part. And so I'm just gonna pull up my deck here and we will get going. Again, everyone can see the screen here. Audible, yes.
I can't see the screen.
Yeah, thank you. How about now?
Yeah, that looks good.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay. So, just getting into the environmental problem, I'm sure a lot of people are somewhat familiar, but um, I try to zoom out from the urchin barrens and kelp uh, dynamic, and just really consider like fisheries in the United States. And what am I trying to solve here? What is the problem we're all dealing with? And so I think, as we all know, about 90% of global fish stocks are overexploited. Climate change exacerbating matters, and uh, so there's this issue that has taken place in real time, of tuna, salmon, all the keystone species that we are accustomed to eating, diminishing. And cultural change and people adjusting to eating different types of seafood, this does not happen overnight. And, this takes a really long time. And so what I'm thinking about, I think what we all really need to be thinking about is how we can eat more sustainably, consciously, and not compromise like the joy and pleasure of eating. People are not going to be eating lionfish um, just because it makes them feel warm and fuzzy about the environment. So that's what I'm trying to kind of solve for with this product around purple urchins, and then eventually thinking past the sea urchin to just how are we doing this habit change. That's just kind of like a big picture problem when I think about purple urchins being one of these species that is there's a plethora of them available. They are tasty, but it's unknown, it's exotic. How do we do that education journey? That's something that I'm thinking about a lot. So, back to some of the facts, 90% of kelp forests have been decimated, and that is largely at the hands of purple sea urchins. Obviously, a lot of other factors coming into play, the predators, being greatly reduced, like the sunflower sea star, otters. We had these warming events of El Nino. So, a variety of reasons, kelp forests have diminished, but we do know, as we're seeing happen, that the purple urchins are just taking over. This um, is called hysteresis. So there's been a state change between the dynamic of kelp forests and urchins, and these urchin barrens now are rampant and expanding. Really from Alaska all the way down to Baja. A lot of people are always thinking about this in a NorCal, Southern California region, but this is playing out, across our coast. And so when we think about this purple orchard thing, this is a really big problem. And we think about the value of kelp. Clearly, it contributes a lot. You know, the phrase I like hearing to get people alert to this is like the ocean's lungs, like the rainforest, right? So oxygen production, supporting fisheries, ecosystem services, lots and lots of value from kelp, let alone just people being able to explore, swim in them, actually appreciate, the ocean's a wonderful place. So, I kind of had this bold vision that eating people purple urchins with uni butter can be this regenerative seafood. The more you eat of purples, the more you can end up protecting kelp. So kind of looking at it as this win-win. And an exciting project that is taking a super long time is actually doing a life cycle analysis of the the actual impact, the metrics, remove X amount of purple urchins, how much kelp forest can actually be, protected, come back. And so there's hopefully bring it up later a group I'm working with at UCSB and Nature Conservancy that's really trying to delve into this. But that's just where the vision is at for now. So, um, cool. Uni butter. It's made from sea urchins. It tastes good. I discovered this in a restaurant. Why am I doing this? Why am I committed to this? Why do I think it can work? As I alluded to earlier, getting someone to eat a food that is more sustainable is a challenge. And purple urchins, in the current way they are eaten, largely in sushi, sashimi, is a very niche preparation and a limited segment that enjoys them. So I say, perishable delicacy. Sea urchin is, like a live oyster or anything. You have a very limited amount of time to harvest it, consume it, ship it, all of that. The supply chain is really, um, it's all ethereal. And so the goal here is to take this perishable delicacy, sea urchin, and transform it into a sustainable gourmet pantry staple, helping to preserve ocean ecosystems. And there are some, different ways that I think about this. If you have a uni butter, you can be eating a little bit of it frequently. And so this can actually become like a habit. It can be in your daily routine. Whereas buying one urchin, it's more expensive, it's perishable, you use it once. So how can we get people to eat this more frequently? How can we get people to eat the purple urchin in a way that integrates into their lifestyle? Like you can snack with it, you can just put it on toast, you can cook with it. It goes in your fridge. You don't have to crack an urchin. Like everything around the processing, trying to make it a more familiar and relatable product as an uni butter. And let me just back up and define what this even is. I keep saying uni butter. Um, Salted Gold Uni butter is a blend of wild sea urchin and dairy grass-fed butter. So uni is blended and mixed with butter. Um, and I'll get a little more into the product after this, but just kind of wanted to define that. So anyway, when I think about how, again, back to the problem, we have too many urchins and they're ravaging kelp forests. How do we remove them in mass? And then how do we get a lot of different people to eat them. So the way that I'm thinking about this is to scale, an effective solution, getting into larger retail stores, grocery stores specifically, where people can be buying this, bringing it home, using it. So some of the segments, obviously home cooks, we're then also thinking about restaurants, chefs, food professionals, and um, to be clear about the business model, the reason I find this really exciting is the product, the way it has been engineered and the way it's manufactured is um, the most efficient way I can consider to remove purple urchins and make it palatable. So you take a bunch of urchins and you can blend them indiscriminately. So that's already a huge difference between the urchin market and this product. You do not have to be picking them with these really rigorous, limited specs, of someone buying a whole urchin, which largely has to do with factors that are irrelevant to the quality of it color, size, all these things. So this product can be removing many small urchins that are not necessarily full yield, which is what many of them are out in the ocean currently. And then, instead of cracking them one by one and carefully making them ready for like a designer store, like impeccably clean, all that. It's quick, it's blended, and it can scale in that way where you're then removing many urchins, doing a production run, um, and yeah, in that way it becomes more of a manufacturing thing rather than an artisan thing. And so I kind of think about this as focusing on these neglected urchins. Even if we had people eating purples today, there's so many that can't make it to market, for reason of size and everything else. Uh, so yeah, getting a little more into uni butter. I I like this quote by the chef from Flower Water SF Restaurant. The best way to get a dish selling is by adding the pork belly of the ocean, sea urchin. Um, so if you've never eaten sea urchin, the flavor is really rich, really powerful. I'm curious, maybe if people want to raise their hands, how many people have eaten sea urchin? Uh, period. Okay. We have some that are familiar. Now, I want you to, I guess, think back to your experience and then people eating around you. Is there any way this is like a really strong, powerful, potentially divisive flavor? I personally know when I've met people, when I even had my own sea urchin tasting the first time, the actual uni, it was a little bitter. Texture threw me off. Like this took getting used to, and I've worked professionally as a chef. So I can absolutely relate to people that can struggle with this, just eating a glob of sea urchin. Um, let alone sometimes you get these flavor notes that can just be difficult, especially given Americans are more wary about seafood, not as adventurous, as other countries. So I bring this all up because in uni butter, once you actually combine it with butter, the sea urchin, um, you get this like drastically different, amazing kind of flavor combination. Like one plus one equals three. Any fishy notes are eliminated. The texture becomes just creamy and smooth. And there's this just amazing like synergy where you get this almost like aged Wagyu beef Parmesan notes. Like the complexity is mind-blowing. And so yeah, it's a really cool way to get people to eat sea urchin. And the umami is just, really, really at the front. So it's you can have a little bit, it goes a long way. And yeah, the amazing thing about this is the versatility. You can get someone who has no inclination to cook. You can get a gourmand. Anyone that can use butter, or use a knife to spread something on is game and able to cook, eat uni butter. And yeah, I think what is really compelling about it is that as I've kind of described some of these processing steps, like we're skipping through all the very difficult part of dealing with this sort of perishable seafood. And, it's in a jar, take it out of your fridge, you're ready to go. So it helps people um, cook in a more exciting way. And they're skipping the laborious, difficult part that, chefs are crazy enough to sign up for in the first place. And that's just a little bit about the product. I kind of want to move on to like, why do I think this has legs? What's the traction? Why have I even kept going with this? So again, I think it's just a really interesting time where people are becoming more aware of the environmental issue around um, purple urchins eating kelp. Kelp itself, obviously, is getting more and more into the forefront when we're thinking about just being eaten more. All the products that are made with marine algae. And also an appreciation for like the lexicon, the vocabulary that comes with this, like umami, briny, just all these different things. So kelp, urchin, it's becoming part of the zeitgeist, and really well-known influencers, Patagonia Provisions, Yvonne Chouinard, Jose Andres. They love sea urchin, so people are kind of catching on that yes, this is a thing, this is tasty, there is an environmental problem, and that's so important. Otherwise, the reach is just not really going to happen. And so where I'm really excited is looking at this product to get into Whole Foods. I want to kind of step back from that really specific strategy and just think about all the different people that come into play, like what this roadmap looks like. How do we get people to care, let alone eat purple sea urchins and appreciate the importance of kelp? Uh, so again, long-term vision is removing enough purple urchins in mass to reverse these urchin barren formations that are occurring, change this, it's a state change kelp forest coming back, purple urchin behavior switching to how they normally live, which to be clear, these urchin barrens are you have a mass density of purple urchins that have overconsumed all the kelp. You get an empty marine floor, and they just accrue and can kind of live in this zombie-like state uh, for years. They do not even have to eat. They can filter feed. They then broadcast spawn, which means, one urchin can lay a million eggs. And so the point is, these are really, clever, tenacious, resilient creatures that are taking over the oceans and destroying kelp. So it's a really hard thing to change. Um, and that's why, I think about really needing what goes into getting people to eat the purple urchin. Like it's not just uni butter. This is one product. There needs to be a new fishery regulation change, the educational journey around kelp and urchin. It's a lot of different actors. So just kind of going through this a little bit. Um, if we go to the center of the screen and just work our way from bottom to top, I feel like some of the key stakeholders really are chefs and restaurants, just because, um, you know, people get excited about seeing food and seeing something that looks really tasty and amazing. Someone like Jose Andres, chefs like him, Bobby Flay, charismatic individuals, and people, relate and eat with our eyes and our sensory inputs before, uh, you know, coming to appreciate the value of kelp and everything else in reading or whatever else. The belly really drives a lot. So again, I think as chefs, restaurants, as these brand ambassadors to really communicate the importance of purple urchins being tasty, and then the education journey. There's an environmental problem. Everything else is moving in parallel. So a lot of partnerships that I've been building from the ground up to give a sense of, I guess, what it's taken to get to where I am now, and like what I think it'll take to make purple urchin removal, a really important lever of kelp forest stewardship is there's a lot of different actors and coalitions kind of at play. Um, Environmental NGOs, which I'll get into a little later. I mentioned Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, Sustainable Ocean Alliance. A lot of these groups, have already have the apparatus to be dealing with this sort of problem. Then, a big challenge has been getting the fishery to become activated. There's a lot of regulation issues around that, government, um, and just divers to even start going for purple urchins instead of what they have been doing, abalone, red urchin, things like that. Uh, so a lot of moving parts, to say the least. I want to get a little more into those just to kind of make it more relatable as far as individuals and people. So I mentioned some of these environmental NGOs, and a really exciting part of this project was going with Sustainable Ocean Alliance to Capitol Hill in DC and just meeting with a lot of, our Congress representatives to find out like what do they think about the problem? What are they doing about kelp stewardship on their own right? How interested are they? So those are kind of three segments: chefs, government, environmental NGOs. As far as close collaborators on the team. There's a lot of product development that goes into this. getting past the perishability, getting the right mouthfeel, like the seasoning. I'll go a little into trials later, but that has been 2 years journey that is very much unfolding, hundreds and hundreds of trials. Um, so it's as you can see, though, still a very nimble team. I'm doing this chiefly on my own and bringing in a lot of people. So another reason excited to give this talk to just meet, all of you who are excited about kelp and have more of these conversations. As you can see, the kelp part sometimes gets lost with these other groups. But it's the driving force. Um, so, uh, kind of going into the actual market for this, and how this is, I guess, a challenge and an exciting opportunity to get into the market, to get people eating purple urchin. A lot of products around uni thus far are really just like a packaged sea urchin spread, if you will. And it's really hard to preserve that freshness. Like there's a reason, apart from the tastiness, butter is a fat that ends up preventing oxidation, all these things that just continue to make it tasty. When you jar up sea urchin on its own, it's really hard to capture that kind of fresh taste. Like I don't know if anyone's ever eaten just oysters from a can or something like that. Obviously, tinned seafood is having its moment. I share this fishwife thing here as indirect competition, but just straight up uni, it's really hard to capture that product on its own. So a lot of products that I think about are actually like a little more creatively outside of the sphere of a seafood product. Apart from tinned seafood, I use fish rice as an example. But like what I ask myself, what is someone using instead of uni butter? Or what are they even using to cook and eat with? And there's a lot of these kind of like chefy products out there. Truff hot sauce, fly by Jing, which is chili crisp. So, I think again, another reason the uni butter vehicle is exciting is people are already tending to eat like this and look for products like this to spice up their cooking. Um, so, just kind of getting into now, um, a little more of the environmental tactics of urchin barrens and removal. So this is a diagram here of really important kelp forests and places where urchin barrens are occurring. Kind of bottom middle right, we have Channel Islands and just getting into the nuts and bolts of how immensely difficult it is to reverse an urchin barren. Once it happens, it it can take a really, really, really long time to clear these out for a long enough time for kelp to bounce back. I do want to emphasize again a little kelp nerdy fact. Kelp is, the fastest growing plant we have. Giant kelp, I think it's about a meter per day, maybe even 3 meters, I believe, if anyone wants to correct me. But so kelp is resilient, and once it gets reseeded, it can recover and bounce back and grow tremendously fast. We have really exciting removal projects happening. I don't know how many are familiar with you, like the Bay Foundation out in Palos Verdes, removing purple urchins. A group I'm working with right now, we've just started a pilot removing purples out at the Channel Islands, to kind of come up with the same proof of concept of how many divers does it take, like what is the whole operation. But the all this information I use for Salty Gold to consider that place Northern California, for example, where now there are purple urchins rampantly spread out, and most of the kelp is receded. It's immensely difficult to reverse that. And so currently, I manufacture this product in source and harvest in Santa Barbara. Um, I think that this is really a strategic linchpin to prevent future urchin barrens and prevent this from even really, occurring. Um, and then we can work our way backwards and simultaneously be removing urchins from these hotspots. But it's like a um, really important time in terms of when I think about the Central Coast, Santa Barbara, and uh, going all the way south, Los Angeles, San Diego. We don't have the same problem as we do in Northern California. Um, so being able to really select places to harvest purple urchin where in real time we can prevent aberrant from happening, I think is a really important um, strategy and just path of least resistance. So one of the partners I'm working with, cultured abalone, it's the only commercial um, facility I know that is removing and selling purple urchins. They do abalone as well. They are removing and harvesting purple urchins from the Channel Islands. And so that's a really important partner. And part of the supply chain, part of what it will take, I think, to really make some notable progress on this is getting more places like Cultured Abalone, which does it is kind of like ranching is the term. Aquaculture, can happen from seed. They are removing wild purple urchins and then fattening them up in tanks for a short amount of time. I like to think of it like Wagyu beef. It's fed this consistent seaweed blend that makes it um, utterly delicious and reliable and predictable as far as the flavor notes. Whereas, you get a purple urchin from near shore, offshore, like the taste can vary considerably. So that's just a neat component of this product as far as how do we make a purple urchin product as consistent and delicious as possible. And so that is a really important part of the supply chain to point out. Getting into just some of the things that I've done this year for Salty Gold and thinking about, you know, again, like this whole project is a case study when we're looking at other species that are important for kelp forests, when we're looking at kelp itself, what does it take to get a new product out there? What does it look like to get people to change their habits? And so, some of the things that I've been mentioning just to kind of like circle back is this whole journey has involved a lot of number one, just like primary research, like months and months back when I graduated grad school, simply removing purple urchins and processing them in mass to find out like can yield even be consistent enough in the first place? What is the smallest amount of urchin uni you'll get from one cracked urchin? How many are empty? Um, of the flavor attributes, like how consistent can it be? So a lot of that went into even going, yes, removing wild purple urchins is doable, feasible, and can make a good product. And then, teaming that up with these ranched urchins also works. All the product R&D, it's one thing to a lot of people have made uni butter. I'm not the first. I discovered it in restaurants. It's one thing to do that in a restaurant and serve it, that night to a customer. It's entirely another thing then to, you know, commercialize it, create a recipe, scale that up. You end up getting that to a co-packer, a distributor, and so all these things are building out like a new system, for this product for these species. So some of the things I did this year, given there is a product, like all the packaging, et cetera, the marketing was just do these, little product launches, Santa Barbara Seafood Festival, um, an event in San Francisco, so on and so forth. But just getting the product out there for people to try. And as I mentioned, the goal that I have in mind to come up with an effective solution to remove as many purples as possible, and educate people about the importance of kelp and kelp being consumed by purple urchins is getting this product into a place like Whole Foods, where you have a lot of shoppers. They are um, going to be a little more eco-conscious and maybe cooking more creatively than someone at Costco, perhaps. But yeah, it's really been a journey, like the amount of times of sending this product out as a sample to Patagonia or to um, Whole Foods, getting feedback on it, refining it, things like that. So I just kind of wanted to share a few of the photos here of on the bottom we have trials of the uni butter. Uh, like I said, hundreds, I think, starting from um, creating the product of putting as much uni as possible until the emulsion, the mix of butter and uni broke, and to find out like what is someone's threshold for too much uni, to then reverse it to as little uni as possible. And so it is a really simple product in terms of ingredients, which is wonderful. It's transparent. You have sea urchin, you have butter, you have some salt and pepper. But getting that like shelf stable and into the cold chain, exploring pasteurization, and all these things has taken a lot of time and effort. So, getting like Jose Andres' team to try it, getting this chef in Santa Barbara to try it, figuring out the efficient ways to process, that has taken a lot of tinkering to say the least. Um, and then just some shots of the purple urchin up top here at cultured abalone. This is one of the dishes you can make with it. We're not eating lobster every day, but it's a more exciting one when I think about trying to get this, into a restaurant's hand in a fine dining setting. And then bottom right is just like a snapshot day of the life of me bringing the uni butter to a retail fish market and just this is, kind of a snapshot of the day. Walk to the back door as you would in a restaurant, and then I have about 5 seconds to explain to someone this is uni butter before they, either say get out or let me keep talking. So it's definitely a scrappy enterprise, but generally people have been excited about the product, and sharing this with everyone here today. I'm really passionate about the vision and this particular strategy or blueprint, the purple urchin to really change the tide. And again, I guess I just think about this in our current context and setting of California is the perfect place to launch this, and um, this is where the problem is, and people are eating more adventurously here. So I really believe that this is the best way to scale it, and I'm feeling well on the path. So I'm gonna stop there, and we can open it up for some questions.